Hello, welcome once again to Jump to It for IrishRacing.com, our betting show where we're going to be previewing the weekend's action. Now, there are lots of odds-on heavy favourites, so perhaps this weekend is more about the notebook, more so than actually getting value out of the markets. But to join me, try and get you some value from this weekend's action, Stephen Harris from Betting Expert and Ed Quigley. Chaps, are you well? What's kind of stood out for you over the past few days? Ed, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, Joe. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it's the jump season's kind of gone up a gear, hasn't it, in recent times? Obviously, we just had Cheltenham's November meeting, and Jamie Snowden, I suppose, is kind of the trainer I'd focus on at the moment. He could do little wrong. He's been touching 40% strike rate since the start of October, and of course, Scoop, the huge one, the Paddy Power Gold Cup on the Saturday. We were there down at the yard, weren't we, last month, Joe? And he was saying, look, if he can get this horse to the race, he'd have a cracking chance. And, I mean, he powered up that hill. He looked outpaced. I mean, he really saw out the trip well. And now they're starting to get ideas of Gold Cups and fanciful targets going further forward. Why not, as you say? A brilliant performance from that horse, great training performance from Jamie Snowden, and they might be looking at something like the Cotswold Chase in January. So been lots of great action recently, lots of things to take in. But as I say, Jamie Snowden is a trainer who really is flying. He's having an absolute purple patch at the moment. Whatever he seems to run, just wins. He fired in a double win Canton yesterday as well, and all his weekend runners, I'm going to be on board with them.
Lovely stuff. And Stephen as well, I wanted to get your thoughts on John Bond's chasing debut as well. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, he was absolutely electric, Joe, wasn't he? He was really impressive. I mean, he wasn't always the easiest to settle in his early days as a novice over hurdles, but front running and fences really suited him. I mean, you watched the first 5 furlongs of that race at Warwick. I mean, I should think Henderson must have been having a litter of kittens, to be honest, when he was watching it, because they absolutely gunned both of them from the tape, which in these small field races, usually there's a sort of gentleman's agreement, I'll lead, you sit second. But no, they absolutely went head to head over those fences at Warwick. And it was a brilliant race to watch. I mean, in the end, John Bond proved to be completely different class. I mean, I suppose, if you want to be a misery as half an hour, Cheltenham on soft ground in March is going to be a bit different to Warwick on goodish ground. He's certainly not short of speed, is he? But no, it was an electrifying performance. He did everything he possibly could have done, and it was really impressive.
And obviously, you touched on there the conditions during the week. Obviously, we saw market raising being abandoned. Just take us through how you see conditions shaping up for this weekend. So Ascot and Haydock.
Well, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I mean, Ascot's good to soft at the minute. And looking at the weather forecast for tomorrow here, it's sunny and fine. And I'd have thought it'd be good to soft at worse at Ascot. Haydock have had sort of 10 millimetres, I believe. It's soft there. I mean, to be honest, it's virgin ground. They haven't raced on it yet at Haydock, so it shouldn't be that bad. I don't think we're going to be looking at sort of some of the last man sort of legless slugfests that we've seen in previous years in this Betfair Chase, where, more often than not, Bristol Demise come home on his own, with everything else unconscious at halfway. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Yeah, we will get to the Betfair Chase later on in the show, but the first race we're going to talk about is at Ascot, so the Chanel Farmer 1965 Chase. So Ed, take us through your thinking on this race. Obviously, L'Homme Presse returns, heavy odds-on favourite in this one, but do you see any value elsewhere?
Yeah, this is a real headache, especially with the L'Homme Presse's owners were interviewed on telly yesterday, and they were very much saying, look, he's only 50%. We're kind of using this to get him tuned up for looking at bigger targets, and put out a huge kind of red flag in terms of his fitness and needing the run. Now, it said that it could just be that his kind of intrinsic class gets him home here. The problem is we don't really have an idea of what is going to run or who is going to run, because Hitman he has dual entries. He could easily go to Haydock. I presume Haydock is the plan. Harry Cobden dropped up to run in the graduation chase there. Well, obviously, if he comes out, that then leaves St. Calvados in there. Do Your Job, who's the 4 of the 5 runners. He's due to run in a handicap chase on the day of recording here on Friday. So it's not, and then that leaves Cool Cody. So it's not inconceivable. You've got L'Homme Presse, who's half fit, against St. Calvados, and a 40-1 Cool Cody. So the whole race is a, to be honest with you, it's just stay clear of in terms of trying to have any kind of financial involvement. But it will be fascinating to see L'Homme Presse back. It may be a case, if he does get the job done, he's workmanlike more than scintillating. They've had enough rain in the area as well, which is fine. There'll be enough give for him. But just fascinating. Sometimes you get these trainers on board, like you listen to Michael Buckley with Constitution Hill, and I know Constitution Hill's a brilliant horse, but he's giving it all the that we want to go there, we want to take them apart. He's working the house down. Couldn't have him many better. With L'Homme Presse, it was all very kind of a bit reticent, a bit like there are other days ahead. So it gets the alarm bells ringing in my head. When you look at a horse who's 2's on and the owner's basically saying it. He said he wouldn't part with counterfeit cash in order to back it. So all in all, I think this could cut up into a bit of a non-event. Really, you could have 2 or 3 runners in here, and it's a bit of a shame for a race of its prestige.
Yeah, and Stephen, do you follow that line of thinking? I mean, you'll be keeping a close eye on L'Homme Presse.
I think L'Homme Presse will win. I mean, there are a long list of negatives, as Ed's made a few of them. I mean, Venetia Williams has not had a winner since April, 7 months. Now, all right, she has hardly had a runner for the whole of the summer. She never does. But they've been very slow to come to hand. They have 2 horses been very well back this week, midweek, in handicaps. Both ran well, but they didn't win and they didn't get home. They're probably not fit quite, but she won't be far off. I mean, I seem to remember, I don't know whether it was this meeting a few years ago, she'd been very similar, completely missing. And I think she had 4 winners at Ascot on one of these Saturdays a few years back. So they tend to peak. L'Homme Presse is an absolute certainty, by the way, but there are a long list of negatives. I mean, the second in we're going to run at Haydock, isn't it, Hitman? And Do Your Job's running today as we're recording. Cool Cody had a racecourse gallop, got lapped at Newbury in the week and didn't do anything at all on the previous start. And the second in's ridden by David Maxwell's liable to need the run. So, yeah, I mean, L'Homme Presse is an absolute certainty. But there are, I should think probably be about 4 or 5 to 1 on if all those horses don't run against him. Yeah, the one thing to say, he does jump left. I mean, he's won at Ascot, he's won at Sandown. He jumped left markedly at both those tracks. I'm surprised they're starting him off here, but it looks a gilt-edged opportunity, to be honest.
I mean, well, like I touched on at the start of the show, maybe there's not so many much value in some of these races, but of course we do want to keep an eye on these horses as well for later on. So maybe a more interesting race from a betting point of view, the one we're going to look at next, the 225 at Haydock. Now, I know you guys are both keen on one in this race, so Ed, I'll start with you. Just take us through your thoughts.
Yeah, what's going on here? Myself and Stephen and Green again. We're going to have to change the format, but we're going to have to stage a big argument, aren't we, really? But yeah, I'm Might I, fascinating horse in here for Harry Fry, Sean Bowen taking the ride. And this horse has a very good novice hurdle form. You go back through last season, running over 2 miles. He saw the backside of Constitution Hill, didn't he? At Sandown in the old in one of the earlier contests in December, and then kind of hit the crossbar on a couple of occasions, but most significantly over 2.5 miles last time out when seen at Aintree, where I thought he galloped all the way to the line behind 3 Stripe Life, who we know is a bit of a class act, but it's going up to 3 miles here. This is the key to me. He's off 142. I'm convinced he's going to be better than the handicapper, but I think he could really blossom and come into his own over a staying trip. He's very closely related to Statler, who won the National Hunt Chase over 3.6, 3.7 at the Cheltenham Festival this year. He's from a pretty much stamina-laden family. So I'd imagine there'll be a lot more to come from him tackling staying trips. I like Harry Fry's kind of thinking. He said, we'll find out if he stays first time out. He said he's got him pretty much spot on in terms of he's not the type of horse who's going to come out, need the run, be beaten 25 lengths and improve 2 stone for the outing. He's got him tuned up first time out. He's going to find out on soft ground whether he stays first time out over 3 miles. If he does, world's his oyster. I've actually had a few quid on him for the Stayers Hurdle itself, Joe, because I think it's the most wide open looking Stayers Hurdle at present in pretty much the history of the race. I think they're 11-2 the field with the favourite Flooring Porter having just been beaten a dozen lengths or so on his seasonal comeback. So I think this 3 mile scene is ready for some young blood to come through the handicap ranks and kind of be thrust up onto the top table, if you like. And I'm hoping Might High proves he stays, proves he's a lot better than 142. In regards to the ground, Stephen did touch upon, it is officially soft, but there are absolute monsoons forecast all day Friday. I mean, I've got 2 weather maps on my laptop in front of me at the moment, and there seems to be no let up in the forecast of rain for pretty much 10 to 12 hours through the Friday and into Friday night. So weather looking a bit better on the Saturday, but it could get quite testing there. That will be a slight concern first time out. Harry Fry's kind of said, look, we're going to find out. If he stays, he stays. Soft ground in itself is no problem. He absolutely loves it. All his best novice hurdle form over a shorter trip did come with substantial give underfoot. So I really like him. I just think he's going to prove a lot better than the mark of 142. And as I said, it wouldn't shock me by March if he ended up in the Stayers Hurdle or one of those good staying contests at Aintree or Punchestown.
Yeah, so this is what I'm just trying to show on screen as well, just the filtering system you can see on irishracing.com. So I'm here on the left-hand side filtering down to 2.5 miles 3. Obviously, Mai Tai only one run, as Ed touches on, at this distance. So just for you, Stephen, as well, I know you're keen on Mai Tai, but is that a little bit of a negative, or do you think he will get the trip?
No, I definitely think he'll stay. He loves soft ground. He's probably going to be the only horse to ever go off favourite against Constitution Hill in the history of horse racing, I suspect. At Sandown,
That's a good one.
he was 6-4, absolute stable nap, and got lapped. I mean, and it was sort of a startling performance from Constitution Hill, and obviously that form's absolutely bomb-proof. I mean, 142. I thought my time might be at least 150. I think it's a very generous piece of handicapping, and there's loads more to come. He's run really well at Haydock on bad ground as well, which I always like. I know it was over 2 miles, but that was against John Bond, so that form reads well. And I watched that run back this morning. He was a bit unlucky. He made a mistake at the wrong time, and he did really well to get in a challenge. I mean, he looked like he was going to win jump in the last, just no extra in the last sort of 50 yards. He's a lovely, strapping, chasing type. He's 5-1. I mean, I think it's a very fair price. This is one of those Saturday handicaps. I mean, good risk at all. Who's a horse I really like, a Sam Thomas, a yard going well. I don't think he's guaranteed to stay at all. He's quite a free-going sort, never been anywhere near 3 miles before. He'll certainly have to settle better. And the favourite who won the Cesaro, which run for Oscar, he's not guaranteed to stay either on really testing ground. I mean, Charles Byrne, this is a difficult race for bookmakers to price up. They've sort of priced it up like a normal Saturday handicap, 5-1 the field. I'm not sure it is 5-1 the field. Charles Burns brought 2 horses over to Plumpton in the week. One of them went from 5-4 out to 3-1 and never quite landed a blow under a quite patient ride, to put it politely. And the other one was back from 10-11 into 2-7 and won pulling a cart, which sums Charles Burns up nicely. I mean, this could be a much bigger price than 9-2 run for Oscar. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Mai Tai ended up sort of 5-2. It's a big price, 5-1 for me.
So definitely keep an eye on the prices beforehand, because it looks like there should be some value on Mai Tai at the moment. All right, let's move on to the next race on our program today. So the 240, the Coral Hurdle. So obviously Constitution Hill, we've touched on already in the show again. Heavy odds on, should win this one. But Ed, just take us through your line of thinking here and how much you're looking forward to seeing the return of Constitution Hill.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course, Joe. I mean, horses like this really get you out of bed in the morning, don't they? I mean, I was still on the rails for the Supreme Novice Hurdle win, and I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. You know, beforehand, it was most competitive 6-runner Supreme Novices we've ever seen. You know, Dice at Dynamo couldn't lose, according to many quarters of the Mullins camp. John Bomb was not going to see which way everyone went. And then you had Constitution Hill, who just cruised past on the bridle. And look, I mean, that in itself was just fantastic performance. Obviously, John Bond's gone on to frank that by winning a Grade 1 since, bolted up on Chase debut, and all Constitution Hill's form does look fairly solid, doesn't it? I suppose, look, 1-4, there's one school of thought that he should be shorter than 1-4, really, given how much he has in hand on official figures. I suppose if you were going to kind of nitpick a look at the negatives, it is first time out, brewing up a storm, and Goshen, you'd think perhaps, and the others, all of them for that matter, would all probably have a fitness edge. But I mean, look, Nicky Anderson doesn't often leave his horses undercooked. He'll be cherry ripe for this, so I can't have that school of thought. I suppose the other thing you've got to factor in is he's going more or less 2.5 miles here for his seasonal reappearance. So if he was a little bit free, a little bit buzzy on return, would he do a bit too much too soon over a greater test of stamina than perhaps what he's been used to recently? But again, I just think this looks like a horse who could do everything. And look, yeah, it'll just be great to see him back, great to see him win. And then there'll be bigger clashes ahead, really. It'll be kind of how Nicky Henderson plots Epperton and Constitution Hill, and how these kind of big stars, if and when they do clash this side of the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously, the one we all want to see, Joe, isn't it? As we touched upon in our jump season preview, will be Constitution Hill Honeysuckle and a wave of Willie Mullins challenges in 4 months' time at Presbury Park. That is the dream. But yeah, so fingers crossed we get to see Constitution Hill back on the track. He struts his stuff, and yeah, I think he should win comfortably.
Yeah, for you, Stephen, as well, should Constitution Hill be shorter than 1-4?
Well, I wouldn't want to lay him because there isn't a second in. I mean, I think he's. I've seen 7-2, and I think it's a fair price. I mean, you just get criticised if something goes wrong, he gets beat, you look like an idiot. But I wouldn't want to lay 7-2 on personally. I mean, Goshen ran over fences the other day, jumped perfectly well. He got beaten 300 yards. I mean, there's something wrong with the horse for me. I can't believe he's running again so quickly. You know, a few weeks later, I'll be amazed if he wins. And the horse of Brewing Up a Storm of Ollie Murphy. Ollie Murphy going away. He's had 6 winners in the last 14 days, but he jinked and got rid of his rider at the first on his return. There's a chance he'll probably need the run. And I don't think his sort of Fontwell form with Botox has and all that is much, to be honest. I think he's got, I think on official ratings, there's something like £13 or £15 between Brewing Up a Storm and, well, I mean, I'd probably have it quite a lot more than that, to be honest. And the bottom two, For Pleasure will probably lead, which will help Constitution Hill settle. They'll go right gallop. For Pleasure will probably ruin Goshen, who probably wants to lead. Constitution Hill will sit second or third and come home sort of 25 lengths in front and be a very short price for the champion here. I suppose it's interesting. I don't know what Ed, I was going to ask Ed about this, Joe. Why is Henderson starting off here over 2 mile 3? It's not the most obvious route for a champion hurdler, is it?
Yeah, I mean, the official line from the Nicky Henderson camp is he just wanted to keep him and Epatante separate, and Epatante going to the fighting fifth. And they had to kind of run him here. And then it sounds like there's a fair chance if Epatante and Constitution Hill both win these respective races, then they may clash in the Christmas hurdle on the 26th of December at Kempton, which would be good fun. So I believe, yeah, it's just a case of at this stage of the season, he didn't want to match up his 2 big guns against each other.
Fair enough.
All right, let's move on to the next odds-on favourite on the card. We want to talk about the Betfair Chase. So the return of Gold Cup hero, of course, A Plus Tard. Hopefully, Stephen, you get to say it correctly this time with the French accent.
Most unlikely.
Chaps, take us through your thoughts on this one. Yeah, another low field in a renewal of the Betfair Chase, Ed.
Yeah, it is. We've just got the 5 runners. We got some of our old favourites in here, haven't we? Old Haydock Demai. Bristol Demai absolutely loves it here. 3-time course distance winner, of course. Made this race his own over the years, but 11 years young. Can he still do it? I mean, what you would say is for him, if the rain is as forecast and we do get another 12, 14 millimetres of rain all day Friday, the ground will be on the much the softer side of soft, shall we say. That will play into his hands. But I just wonder, rising 12, has he still got it in locker to do it? Frodon, I think they'll probably declare a non-runner, personally. Listening to Paul Nicholls' comments, I think they may, if the ground does get deep, they'll pull Frodon out and he'll go straight to the King George, which will leave us then with, obviously, A Plus Tard, the reigning champion, I'll come on to in a minute. Eldorado Allen, who's a little bit of a guesswork in the sense that he's got unfinished business at this kind of trip. Obviously, he won at Newbury back in the spring over 3 miles, then ran very well in defeat behind Allaho at the Cheltenham Festival, bombed out at Aintree, and then I thought ran respectably when last seen at Wetherby, it has to be said, and did knuckle down and stay on to his credit. So he's still relatively unexposed at the trip. And as I said, then that leaves A Plus Tard, the reigning champion, of course, and Protectorat. Now, A Plus Tard, I'm out to get this horse turned over on Saturday, purely on the ground. I just worry. Everyone rightfully points out last year he bolted up by whatever it was, 12 lengths, 20 lengths, glided round, to use Stephen's phrase, looked brilliant. But what you got to remember is there was more good in the going description at Haydock this time last year than anything else. This could end up a totally different type of Betfair Chase to the one he sauntered clear in 12 months ago. When he won the Gold Cup as well at Cheltenham. Remember, we had all that rain on the Wednesday, and then we basically had 2 days of 19 degrees and blue skies. And by the time they came to the Gold Cup on the Friday, it was genuinely good soft ground, the times suggesting perhaps even a little bit quicker in places. And he cruised round and glided clear over 3.25 miles. If this really does get into softer, heavy ground territory, first time out over an extended 3-1, that would be my concern. I mean, Henry de Bromhead's already put in the flares and the alarm bells out there saying, I wouldn't really want to see it turn into just a battle of wills. Whereas for Protectorat, I will be delighted if the ground goes to pot. I mean, I remember at Aintree last year, all it did was rain for 3 days. Bridget Andrews won on Protectorat by a distance. She was wearing 4 pairs of goggles. There was mud everywhere. Flat track, heavy ground, Protectorat's very happy. And to use Dan Skelton's quote, Protectorat will be, quote, tuned to the minute for this race. This is his Gold Cup. They're sensing this is the time to have a go at Plutard. Heavy ground. He will be cherry ripe. As much as I think Plutard will be fit for this, 3 miles, 1 furlongs in deep ground, it kind of negates all the assets, I think, of Plutard, who's a strong travelling 3-miler with a lot of class. He's not a kind of brute who wants to grind it out. So, yeah, all in all, look, no, I'm not questioning Plutard is the best horse in the race. I'm just wondering whether on this particular occasion he will prove the best horse. And I do think Protectorat is the value to topple him personally. Would shock me by the time they met in March, Plutard came home 20 lengths clear of him. But this particular occasion, I think Team Skelton, where Protectorat absolutely fired up for this.
Lovely. And how about for you, Stephen? Do you share the same potential negatives on Plutard?
Sort of. I can see how the market is going to see this race. I do think it depends. Ed's right about the weather forecast at Haydock, although whether it's going to rain that much on Friday, and it looks sort of light rain, it doesn't look like a monsoon. It just depends. I mean, it's ground they've not raced on. It's soft at the minute. If it's really heavy, that would definitely be a doubt for the favourite. De Bromhead said that the same. I mean, he has got 16 pounds in hand. He's much better class horse than any of these A+. I suspect he might be quite a big drifter. I wouldn't be surprised if he got to a very backable price. I think you can see the negatives and the ground concern first time up. I wouldn't be surprised if he got to sort of 4 to 5, in which case I'd have to be with him. He was so impressive in this race last year. He had them all stone cold. Whereas Protectorat, I mean, he got beaten a fence by Plutard in the Gold Cup. I know that was on decent ground. And then his final run at Aintree, he was absolutely unconscious. So he's been freshened up. They've done his win, Protectorat. And as Ed said, he's going to be A1 for this race. Dan Skelton has been having winners. He's only operating sort of 10% strike rate. A lot of his horses have been needing a run. I doubt Protectorat will. The third in is Bristol de May, who's old enough to smoke. This is his track. This is his conditions. I mean, you're going to get a sort of niggly interview with Nigel Twiston-Davies where he says he's still as good as he was when he was 6. He could still win a Gold Cup. He's very optimistic, Nigel Twiston-Davies. Always talks up his horses. Very hard to imagine Bristol de May being able to sustain his form at the age of 11. And also, I don't think he's got a very good makeup if Frodon runs, because Frodon's liable to lead and Bristol de May wants to dominate himself, really. So I'm price sensitive this race. I think Ed's absolutely right with how he summed it up. But the flip side to that is I suspect the market will agree, and I think A+Star might get to a backable price.
Lovely stuff. One question I did have as well for you, Stephen. With all these heavy odds-on shots this weekend, I mean, does it potentially raise the option to then place multiples with these, or would just avoid that?
It wouldn't be for me. I mean, I don't really bet in multiples unless you can sort of play each way doubles and trebles and things if it's half snide, to be honest. It wouldn't be for me. But the public, who are all watching racing on Saturday, it's fantastic racing. There will be millions of ACCAs with L'Homme Presse, Constitution Hill and A+Start. Literally, the firms will not stop laying the treble all day, basically. So they'll be praying to try and get one of them beat. And, of course, experience tells you in racing. I mean, the first two look sort of bar a fool to me. And A+Start, I can see the negatives. So maybe that's the one that's the weakest link in the chain. But no, there'll be a lot of smaller punters will definitely be having the treble on Saturday.
All right, well, that's something to maybe look out for as well from a punting point of view if you want to kind of punt. Anyway, let's move on to the next race on the card. We're going to look at the 3:15 at Ascot. So the handicap chase here. Edward Stone, of course, Arkle winner at the festival. Ed, take us through your thoughts on how this race shapes up, and do you think Edward Stone will win it?
Well, it's a fascinating race, Joe, and it's very strange to see your Arkle winner reappearing in a handicap, isn't it, in a way? I mean, it's great. I'm not complaining at all. I think it's great for the game. I mean, Paul Nicholls has been doing it a lot recently, hasn't he? Running, as we saw with Frodon in the Badger Beers is a good example, running your class grade 1 top horses under huge weights in handicaps. It makes for a brilliant spectacle, and it makes for a good betting medium as well from that point of view. So trying to defy 161 in a handicap at 11-4. It is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, that was I think that was the initial rating Denman won his first Hennessy off. So you're talking in that kind of realms here. I don't know. I find it a bit odd why he is running here. Surely thought perhaps the Tingle Creek or. I think they pulled him out the Slur Chase because the ground was too quick. It just feels a little bit of a strange way of doing things. But look, he's the class act. However, I think there's probably value against him under having to give chunks of weight away here to some good horses. And there's also the opportunity or the possibility that he needs to run. I mentioned at the top of the show, Joe, everything Jamie Snowden is doing at the moment is turning into gold. I think Kilteely Briggs is an insulting price at 25-1. The total roughie of the field. Look, he's got question marks to answer in regards to this trip. Coming down to 2 miles, 1 furlong, it could be. It's too much of a test of speed for him. But 2.5 is kind of his trip. But I think it's going to be enough juice in the ground. He's a brilliant jumper. I think he'll be ridden forward. The yard are flying at over 40% strike rate. And off a mark of 144, I think he's right in this from an each way point of view. I don't see why he's 25-1 would be my angle in here, Joe. I had him more as a kind of 12-1 poke personally. So, yeah, Edwardstone, I don't know what to make of. I think in all, I think it feels a bit of a tall order. First time out to defy 161 in a handicap. When you got the likes of Time White, third time lucky. Last year's winner before Midnight's in here. I think there are other horses in here will definitely give him a race in the makeup of this race, the way the weights are. But Kilteely Briggs for me, only 10-11, getting £17 from the Arkle winner. I think he'll be ridden aggressively. I think he'll try and draw the sting and the fitness out of a few of these. And he's going to be my each way play.
Lovely stuff. And Stephen, do you share that view as well on Edwardstone? Do you find it a bit strange that he's coming down to handicap company for his reappearance?
Well, it certainly makes a change, doesn't it? I mean, for those of us who are knocking on a bit, Joe, this is what racing actually used to be about. Cracking Saturday handicaps. Desert Orchid giving away 3 stone to Panto Prince. The best horses actually racing each other. I mean, this is a brilliant race. There's 9 runners, so there's a bit of an each-way angle. And I really like Edwardstone as a horse, but I think this is a totally different test for him. I mean, the one big plus for him, I think, will be that Ascot probably isn't going to be that bad. It's probably going to be good to soft, or even better than that, which is in his favour. He's a strong traveller, tough and reliable. He finds for pressure. There's nothing to crab him, but giving away a lump of weight in a handicap is a totally different test for him. I mean, he's going to be a fascinating market horse. I wouldn't be surprised if he was quite a lot bigger than 11-4 personally. There's a horse here I can't have on my mind at all, third time lucky. He ran at Exeter the other day. He was fully fit. He made a small mistake, but he stopped as though a miss. I don't fancy him at all. I think he's got an absolutely really stiff task as well into handicaps. Don't like him. I thought the two I'd sort of ruled it down to was Time White, who won here at the last meeting. And if you watch that run back, Lorcan Williams was absolutely cantering all through the race like a really good horse, and then delivered off the bridle as well. So I was very taken by that. He has got more to do now. He's gone up in the weights as a result of that, but there should be a little bit more improvement to come from him. And we always say about Paul Nicholls on a Saturday, he's a massive runner. But the one at a huge price, who I think will probably be sort of 33 or bigger on the exchanges, down the bottom, getting plenty of weight, a Moolah Gold, who's got a brilliant record at Ascot, is always ignored in the market because Bridget's on it. Anything Bridget rides, by the way, the robots on the exchanges decide that if Bridget's on, it's second string, not fancied, not going to be winning, and they drift like a barge. It's nothing to be worried about, especially in these Saturday races. Be doing its best. Ran the other day, badly needed the run at Ascot, never got warm, made a few mistakes, run off his feet on good ground, a little bit of cut in the ground here. As I say, he's got a really good record at Ascot. And interestingly, the blinkers go on for the first time, which might freshen him up a bit. They're going to go a really strong gallop. I could see a Moolah Gold picking up the pieces late at a big price.
Fantastic. Well, we will get to your tips later on in the show as well. I know that's kind of covered a couple of them. But one more race I wanted to talk to you about was this Morgiana Hurdle. At Punchestown on Sunday, 2:05. Willie Mullins entered 6 out of 8 in this one. So Ed, just take us through what do you think the great trainer's going for and what's he thinking about? He's saying that they're all runners, right?
Yep, at the time of recording, we don't have the decks, so a little bit shooting in the dark. But Willie Mullins interviewed yesterday, said the intention is to run them all. I think he, like myself, and quite a few of us, I don't think he really knows what is kind of horses. He wants to sort out who is champion hurdle horses and who are going to be his novice chasers. He says he had lots of discussions with connections, and when I say that, I mean specifically Sir Gerhard and State Man. They're the main two. I mean, Vauban will be going down the champion hurdle route, or at least they'll be aiming so anyway. Sharjah will be back for more. Saudier, that kind of staying over hurdles. But I think he needs to sort out, I think he's and ahhing. I mean, he said it's kind of 60-40 State Man stays hurdling as opposed to chasing. And he said it was the other way around, that 60% Sir Gerhard will go chasing, 40% he stays over hurdles. So I think this race is going to be used as a barometer, essentially, for Mullins to map out all the plans for his string. I was saying to Stephen off air, before we've got the decks, how on earth you price this up if they do all line up? I suppose on default you probably have to make Sir Gerhard favourite because he is, possibly the best horse in the field in my view. He's Ballymore win, Grade 1 winner, amazing Cheltenham record, but he's got an awful punch-down record. In fact, the only 2 times he's been beaten have both been at this venue. You've got State Man, incredible improver, just going through the gears, rated 159 now. You've got Vauban, who was a runaway Triumph Hurdle winner. But then if you forget all that, the best horse in the field on official figures is Sharjah, who's got a terrific record here and is a horse who's often a little bit overlooked in markets. So all in all, I hope they all do run. It will make for a totally engrossing viewing on Sunday. As I said, in itself, it will be a brilliant spectacle, but it also have a huge bearing on the different routes these horses take throughout the course of the next few months.
Absolutely. I think that is the theme, basically, of this weekend, at least for me. Keep an eye on your notebooks and fill them out with as much info as you can. There's obviously plenty of interesting runners this weekend. Right, chaps, that kind of wraps it up for our preview of each race, but we're going to get to your tips of the week. So, Stephen, I'll start with you, please.
Yeah, we've covered a couple of them. In the 225 at Haydock, Might I, who's around 5 or 9 to 2. I think that's a cracking price. He's a really exciting prospect. 142 should be well within his compass, and he'll love the ground and he'll love the test of stamina. I don't think there's many runners. I suspect he'll end up being 9 to 4 rather than 9 to 2 come the off on Saturday. The value angle selection, Amula Gold, who's going to be a massive price at Ascot in the 315. Loves Ascot, blinkers on. Bridget riding a sort of patient race from out the heat of the race. I think will run well. Maybe be running on into 4th. Perhaps it's a hot race, but should run well. And my long shot, I've had to tip this horse because I'm absolutely amazed that Ed hasn't tipped him. He runs in the 335 at Haydock, the big breakaway. Joe Tizard absolutely flying in the last couple of weeks since he's taken over from Father Colin. The big breakaway is very well handicapped on bits and pieces of his form in the last couple of years. He has let backers down before, but I just think a proper sort of stamina test in soft ground at Haydock's exactly what he wants, and I would imagine he'll be absolutely A1 and primed first time up.
Well, Ed, any comment on that?
Yeah, the reason being, Stephen, is I just have to slightly go with caution on your last part of what you were saying there. Listen to Joe Tizard's comments earlier on in the week saying perhaps he will need this with a view to a tilt at the Welsh National.
Ooh,
so that was
right.
just put me slightly on the back burner, whereas today is a bit of a pipe opener, and then they'll look at the race next month. But as you say, it could just be the fact he looks so well handicapped, I mean, on his old form, doesn't he? I mean, he ran really well in that Grade 1 at Kempton once upon a time, and he is starting to go into the my kind of cliff horse territory. But I've wised up, Joe. I've decided, no, let's not sentiment take over. We'll leave that for Stephen. I'm sitting off the breakaway on Saturday, and with a view to perhaps, the Welsh National might be his race. But no, Stephen does make a good point. If he is fully revved up, everything else is in place for a huge run.
Well, go on, Ed. Take us through your tips of the week. I know my eye is your nap, but let's take us through.
Yeah, my nap for a lot. What Stephen's saying, I think 3 miles soft ground, he will be fit. And as I said, I don't think it's a million that he ends up dining at the top table, at least being involved in the kind of Grade 1 staying hurdle scene on the back of this. It wouldn't shock me at all. Protectorate is my value angle. I'm just my mole in the eye, my Michael Fish up in the northwest of England. I got him out there with an umbrella with holes in it, hoping he gets soaked, because I just want more rain the merrier, essentially, for Protectorate. Saying they're forecasting up to 10 mils on the Friday, with the ground already soft. That is the case. It could become an absolute swamp up at Haydock, which would I think play against all the strengths of A Plus Tard, essentially. And I think the one most likely to cash in would be Protectorat, who Dan Skelter says is absolutely tuned to the minute for this. And as I said, my long shot, I think it's an insulting price. I do repeat that. Kilteely Briggs to win the 315 in Ascot. Yes, he's against an Arkle winner, but he's getting £17. He's a good jumper. I think going right-handed suits him. He'll front run, and the Jamie Snowden team. Well, he said himself on telly the other day, having the apart from his Cheltenham Festival win 8 years ago, he really is having the best time of his training career. Winner after winner, 40% strike rate, landed a huge one at Cheltenham over the weekend as well. So I just thought that the outsider of the field, I think he could fill the places from an each-way perspective.
Of course, maybe it's your magic touch, Ed Russell, when we send you to these stable tours and look what happens. And also shout out to Ben Pauling's Slipway as well. He also won during the week. So again, the magic touch potentially there with Ed Quigley. But chaps, best of luck with your selections. We'll be back next week to preview the weekend's action yet again. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, if you do place a bet on any of the selections, please do gamble responsibly. We'll be back very soon for more from irishracing.com.